Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sase Shewnarain. I was born in Skeldon, where I lived in the estate until I was 8 years old, and then we moved to Crabble Creek. I finished high school in 1964, went to UG from 1965 to 1970, got married in 1971, left the country, immigrated to Canada in 1973, where I pursued higher education and worked until 1988, when I officially retired and became fully self-employed. So I've been doing this, I'm self-employed now for about 30 years. I returned to Guyana to invest in 1995. At that time there was a contingent, a whole plane load of us almost came with Mr. Jeff De Silva to come and see what was happening given the changes in 1992. And subsequent to that, I ended up buying a part of Versailles, Plantation Versailles Sugar Estate. It was broken up into two parts. A part was purchased by Ming, and I purchased the other part, which had included the building. And while maintaining my business interests in Canada, I developed the company Roraima Trust and Investment Inc., which built the Town Country Estates, a housing scheme at the back of Plantation Versailles on the West Bank. And subsequent to that, I went back to school again, and then I got this idea about building a resort. Now, traditionally in Guyana, a resort is something you find in the bush. And you go out in the bush and you experience the natural environment. In North America, in Mexico, in the Caribbean, and most other parts of the world, a resort is a place where you go for rest, relaxation, entertainment, and to basically take a break from the drudgery of working 50 weeks of the year with 2 weeks off. And in the 2 weeks off, you would head off to places like Mexico, Florida, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Tobago, Barbados, and the smaller islands. These are places you go where you go to a vacation resort and not an eco-resort. So I had this idea to build a resort to work within the tourist industry. And as Mr. Badal pointed out, I had introduced the concept of staycation, where Guyanese don't have to go abroad to enjoy a vacation. You can stay at home and have a vacation. And the Aracari Resort was intended for just such a purpose. At this point in time, having been here since 1995, I feel I've observed what has been going on. In actual fact, I can say since 1964. But at this point, right now, I feel it is incumbent upon me, a duty so much, to endorse the Change Guyana Party as the right choice right now for Guyanese. The Change Guyana Party is about Guyana is for Guyanese. We are looking for true Guyanese, not Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, Amerindo-Guyanese, Chinese Guyanese, Portuguese Guyanese. Guyanese, we should be proud to say we are Guyanese. And the Change Guyana Party hopes to get people to start changing their thinking. They are first and foremost Guyanese, and they can be anything else afterwards. Because you have to love Guyana, to not worry about your race qualification to be a Guyanese. You don't need a race qualification to be a Guyanese. You just have to love Guyana. And then you will act in a way that will preserve the best interest of Guyanese. In 1964, when I had just finished high school, I started to teach. In fact, I finished Skeldon Lutheran High School in 1964 June, and in September they asked me to teach at Skeldon Lutheran High School. When I graduated, when I finished high school, I had an A-level, I had distinctions in geography, and they needed a geography teacher. So they called me back and they said, come and teach. And that's how I started teaching. But even though I was 15 years old at the time, I became 16 at the end of November. The first PR election took place on December the 7th, 1964. And as a keen observer, you would sit down and wait. You used to sit down by the radio and wait for the results constituency by constituency when you hear who is being elected to represent the country. On that night, way into the wee hours of the morning, you're waiting for a big number as to what percent of the vote the parties have. And that was the first time that had occurred. And since then, what has happened, the Guyanese have lost the power to choose their representative in Parliament since 1964. Instead, they were choosing a party, a political party, and then that party was choosing whom they want to represent you in government, whom they want to govern over you. You no longer had a say as to who will govern you. And at that time, even as early as then, the parties were already race-based. Is it any wonder today that we end up with ethnic politics, racial insecurity, racial discrimination, widespread corruption, and politicization of the civil service? And with those things, you have gross incompetence in governance. They go together, in my experience. They go together, and those, from my perspective and from the perspective of Change Guyana Party, are the real problems that need to get solved. It is by solving these problems we will be able to move the country from having great potential to realizing its great potential. It is very important to distinguish between the two, because we have to free the people to govern themselves, to decide for themselves what is good for them, instead of us telling them through a select few that we will cajole you, persuade you, encourage you, racialize you to vote. And then when we get that power from you, you're not in the picture anymore. You have no say. Whereas you go back to where when you have a representative from your community who knows your community, who knows your problems, who you can go to with your problems, and who will help you solve your problems, that becomes a different situation. And that's where we need to have a counter, and that's how you know. You will vote, if you have even a councillor that is from your area, you know who he is if you had voted for him, and you can go and cuss him up to get results that you want. There's no difference if you observe in other parts of the world where you have a representative from a community. When they maintain an office in the community, that's number one. So they're in constant contact with the people in their community. And you can go there and you can raise these issues. If you find things are not going right, you can raise the issues at your office very loud and clear, band together a group of people of similar interests, and let your voices be heard. This is how you will have accountable governance. Governance that is accountable to you in every district, in every region of the country. The Change Guyana Party intends to become a change agent to solve these problems by looking at the ways in which people will get power back to them. The only real solution to Guyana's problems is democracy. You can debate all you want, but you will come up with the same answer. Guyana problems can be solved by empowering the people. Give the people the power and the right to choose who governs them. You can only have accountable governance in a democratic society. Power must go back to the people. Change Guyana will help to facilitate power to go back to the people where it belongs. This is the real change that the Change Guyana Party is promising. Constitutional reform has been tried, and despite many changes, We now have a government for almost a year without a real legal mandate to govern. More reform has been promised, but the players are only promising. They're not doing the promise before they go in. You send them in. They go in, we like what we got. We're going to keep what we get. We didn't get time to change it. And that is exactly what's happening. You can only have accountable governance in a democratic society. More reform has been promised, but they're happy with the current situation, so they do nothing. So reform is not really the answer. Guyana needs a constitution that is specifically designed to empower the people to hold government accountable for good governance. Now, we don't have I'm sure Mr. Badal and Mr. Hines isn't going to be able to give you an answer right now, but therein lies the solution. And in time, we're hoping to be able to further define how we're going to be able to do that and to be able to give you bring about such changes. Such a constitution will return democracy to Guyana, solve the problems of ethnic politics and insecurity, racial discrimination, corruption, and incompetent governance. The Change Guyana Party has a progressive program to ignite the Guyanese economy, free the private sector to invest and create jobs, and return democracy to Guyana. As I think about the Change Guyana Party, those few things come to mind. Ignite the economy. Those very many ideas that Mr. Badal and Mr. Hines has put forward about igniting the economy, the changes they want to make, and in the process they will free the private sector. The reduction and elimination of taxes will free the private sector. The elimination of red tape will free the private sector to confidently invest, our own private sector, to confidently invest in the country and create jobs. And that's what we need. And in addition to that, we need a return to democracy where you will hold governance accountable to you. The Change Guyana Party does not want to take, but wants to give. You may, in the beginning, vote for us, but we hope that we're able to deliver power back to you. We will do whatever is necessary to work hard to give back to people the right to choose who will represent and govern them. This will be something like that. When we're able to achieve that, it will be the beginning of the end to racial insecurity, discrimination, prejudice, and widespread incompetence. These are goals, the goals of the Change Guyana Party in the area of igniting the economy, freeing investors to create jobs, and returning democracy to Guyana are goals I wholeheartedly support, and as such, I am endorsing the Change Guyana Party under the leadership of Mr. Robert Badal and Mr. Nigel Hines. Thank you.